The judge's chambers raid, FBI, finds cocaine, cash, and burner phones inside a federal courthouse. This is the story of a sitting federal judge whose chambers, long considered untouchable, were secretly hiding a network of corruption, cash, and contraband. At 11:47 p.m., when federal courthouses are supposed to be silent, the elevators were still moving. Not with clerks, not with attorneys, but with armed FBI agents. They did not knock. They swiped access cards, bypassed security protocols, and moved directly toward a chamber that, by law, should have been untouchable. Inside that chamber sat the symbol of American justice itself, a sitting federal judge. By sunrise, the FBI would walk out carrying sealed evidence bags containing cocaine, stacks of unreported cash, and burner phones hidden behind law books. This was not a raid on a criminal. This was a raid on the courtroom, a courthouse above suspicion. Federal judges are among the most protected figures in the American legal system. They are appointed for life. They preside over cases involving organized crime, terrorism, corporate corruption, and national security. Their chambers are considered sacred spaces, insulated from politics, pressure, and scrutiny. For decades, investigators believed one rule was absolute. Judges do not get raided. If misconduct occurred, it was handled quietly. Ethics panels, sealed inquiries, and silent resignations. But this case shattered that assumption because the corruption did not sit outside the courthouse. It operated from within it. The first red flag. The investigation did not begin with drugs. It did not begin with whispers or leaked documents. It began with data. Inside the FBI's Public Corruption Unit, analysts monitor sentencing trends for patterns that do not belong. In late 2023, one such pattern emerged. Buried within thousands of federal rulings was a statistical anomaly, subtle but persistent. One federal judge presiding over white-collar crime and narcotics cases stood apart from peers in ways that could not be explained by ideology alone. Repeat offenders walked free with minimal sentences. Mandatory minimums were bypassed. Cases supported by overwhelming evidence collapsed on narrow technical grounds. Asset forfeitures quietly vanished from the system. At first, analysts assumed judicial discretion. Every judge has a philosophy. Some prioritize rehabilitation, others emphasize procedural purity. But this went beyond interpretation. As months of data accumulated, the picture sharpened. The same defendants appeared repeatedly and avoided prison every time. The same defense strategies succeeded with improbable consistency. The same rulings disappeared from public databases faster than comparable cases. This was not randomness. This was alignment. When analysts adjusted for jurisdiction, case type, and defendant history, the anomaly intensified. The judge was no longer an outlier. They were a signal. Follow the lawyers. Federal investigators operate by a hard rule learned through decades of corruption cases. You do not investigate a judge directly. You investigate the ecosystem around them. Judges leave few fingerprints. Lawyers leave many. So the focus shifted away from the bench and toward the defense bar. Subpoenas were issued quietly. Billing records revealed consulting fees that did not align with services rendered. Defense firms transferred money to obscure LLCs with no employees. Those entities paid for luxury condominiums, offshore accounts, and repeated cash withdrawals deliberately structured just below federal reporting thresholds. This was not sloppy money, it was disciplined laundering. Then came the phone records. Several defense attorneys used prepaid phones that followed an unusual pattern. The devices activated only during trial periods. They went silent immediately after verdicts were delivered. They were never used for personal calls. Cell tower data told the rest of the story. Again and again, the phones pinged from the same location. Late nights, after court hours. No public hearings scheduled. Every signal traced back to one place, the judge's chambers. At that moment, investigators understood the scale of what they were seeing. This was not an ethical lapse. This was a system, the informant. The case did not collapse under force. It cracked under fear. Deep inside the federal courthouse, far from cameras and press briefings, a junior court clerk made a decision that could end a career or save a conscience. The clerk was not senior. They held no authority. They were overworked, underpaid, and invisible to most of the system. But they saw everything. Late nights became routine. Court hours ended, yet lights remained on in the judge's chambers. Defense attorneys appeared without scheduled hearings. Access requests were approved manually, bypassing standard courthouse procedures. These were not clerical errors. They were deliberate. The clerk noticed that these meetings never appeared on official calendars. No docket entries, no visitor logs, no administrative trace. Private conversations took place behind closed doors, between the judge and attorneys representing defendants, who, statistically, should not have been walking free. Then came the moment that changed everything. On one particular night, the clerk was instructed to secure the chamber and leave the floor entirely. The wording was unusual, the urgency unmistakable. When the clerk returned hours later, something felt wrong. The chamber looked untouched, except for one detail: the bookshelf. It had been moved. Behind it, partially concealed within the wall, was a steel safe the clerk had never seen before. That image stayed with them, and eventually fear overcame silence. An anonymous message was sent to federal investigators, building a case against the untouchable. Investigating a sitting federal judge is one of the most dangerous actions the federal system can take against itself. Judges are not simply officials, they are pillars of institutional legitimacy. To proceed, the FBI required extraordinary authorization. First, probable cause supported by corroborated witness testimony. Second, Department of Justice approval reviewed at the highest levels. Third, judicial authorization from an external circuit, ensuring no conflict of interest. Finally, sealed warrants reviewed, revised, and approved repeatedly. Every comma mattered, because if this investigation collapsed, the damage would be catastrophic. Careers would end. Cases would be dismissed. Public trust in the judiciary would fracture. But the evidence did not weaken, it multiplied. Financial audits revealed unexplained deposits. Shell companies connected to defense firms surfaced. Surveillance footage confirmed after-hours access. Encrypted communications referenced bench outcomes and clean resolutions. The picture was no longer circumstantial, it was structural. And the final step loomed: a raid. Why the raid had to be secret? Secrecy was not optional, it was survival. If courthouse security knew, word would spread. If local law enforcement was informed, leaks were inevitable. If other judges were notified, the investigation would be compromised. The entire operation was compartmentalized. Only a handful of agents knew the target. Others were briefed minutes before execution. The cover story was precise: a classified facilities inspection. Agents entered the building legally, silently, and without suspicion. Access logs were modified in real time under federal authority. Internal surveillance cameras were temporarily redirected. No alarms triggered, no alerts sent. The raid window was narrow: 1 hour, no mistakes. 11:47 p.m. The raid begins. At exactly 11:47 p.m., the elevator doors opened. 6 FBI agents stepped out. No jackets, no visible insignia. Body cameras active. They moved with purpose. Straight to the judge's chambers. The door opened using a federal override. Inside, everything appeared normal. A polished mahogany desk. The American flag standing behind it. Framed legal citations lining the walls. A room designed to inspire trust. Then the search began. Drawers opened. Panels tapped. Furniture shifted. They knew what they were looking for. And they knew where to look. What the FBI found. Behind the bookshelf was the safe, steel, digitally locked, recently accessed. Inside it, the illusion of integrity collapsed. There were bricks of cash, over $600,000, unreported, untraceable. 3 burner phones sealed in anti-static wrapping. Plastic-wrapped packages of cocaine. Handwritten notes listing case numbers beside dollar amounts. Not random, calculated. Inside the desk drawers, agents found another phone, encrypted. USB drives labeled only with initials. Receipts for luxury watches purchased entirely in cash. Then came the filing cabinet, marked "Closed Cases." Inside were sealed documents bearing handwritten changes, sentencing drafts that never entered the system, and a ledger titled simply "Resolutions." This was not corruption driven by opportunity. It was corruption by design. The judge returns. Halfway through the search, the impossible happened. The judge returned. They claimed they had forgotten documents. When they entered their chambers and saw federal agents inside, the room froze. No shouting, no defiance, only silence. An agent read the warrant aloud. Another placed sealed evidence bags on the judge's desk. For the first time in decades, authority shifted. The bench no longer protected the judge. The law had entered the room. The bribery network. Subsequent analysis revealed a network, not an individual crime. Defense attorneys funneled payments through intermediaries. Those intermediaries laundered money via consulting firms and shell accounts. Payments were carefully timed to align with rulings. The judge never touched the money. Burner phones handled coordination. Case numbers became transaction codes. Each outcome had a price. Dismissal carried one rate. Reduced sentencing, another. Suppressed evidence demanded the highest premium. Justice was no longer blind. It was transactional. Why no one spoke up? The question haunted investigators. How did this go on for years? The answer was fear. Clerks feared retaliation. Attorneys feared blacklisting. Defendants believed the system was already corrupt. And above all, no one believed a judge could be touched. That illusion protected the crime. The aftermath. By morning, the judge was placed on administrative leave. The courthouse issued a vague statement. Court calendars were quietly reassigned within weeks. Multiple attorneys were indicted. Shell companies were seized. Dozens of cases were reopened. Some convictions collapsed. Others revealed innocent people who had paid for outcomes they never deserved. Justice, once bent, had to be rebuilt. What this case really exposed. This was not just one corrupt judge. It was a warning. That power without oversight corrodes. That institutions depend on trust and vigilance. That corruption thrives where reverence replaces accountability. The FBI did not just raid a chamber. They shattered a myth. The silence that followed. No cameras captured the raid. No press conference announced it. Because the system prefers quiet repairs to public reckoning. But silence carries a cost. When corruption hides in the dark, it grows. Final reflection. The question is no longer, can judges be corrupt? The question is, who is watching the watchers? If you want more real investigative-style documentaries exposing hidden operations inside governments and institutions, subscribe. Turn on notifications. Share this story, because the next raid may already be underway, and the truth only survives if someone is watching.